The crisp morning air bit harshly against Marcus Johnson's weathered skin as he lay curled up on the park bench. His tattered coat, once a reliable shield against the elements, now hung loosely around his thin frame. The city awakened around him, distant car horns, shuffling feet, the occasional rustle of a morning newspaper. His ancient mobile phone, a relic from better days, suddenly vibrated with an unexpected call. Marcus hesitated, his calloused fingers trembling as he answered. "Mr. Johnson," a professional voice cut through the background noise. "This is the genetic testing laboratory. Your DNA test has revealed something you need to know immediately. We found a match that changes everything." The scene shifted dramatically, Marcus's weary eyes fixed on a sprawling mansion in the distance. Inside, basketball superstar Dwayne Williams celebrated with his entourage. Champagne flowing, laughter echoing, trophies gleaming under crystal chandeliers. Marcus remembered the free health screening at the community center 3 weeks ago. A simple swab, a quick chat with a kind nurse, and then back to his daily struggle of survival. He had no idea then that those few moments would become the turning point of his entire existence. The phone call continued, words blurring together. Genetic match, biological connection, potential inheritance. Marcus's mind reeled. He had spent 8 long years surviving on the streets, each day a battle for basic necessities. Now, something unprecedented was about to shatter the fragile reality he knew. His fingers clutched the phone, knuckles white, as the voice on the other end began to reveal details that would unravel everything he thought he knew about his past. The mansion in the distance seemed to pulse with an otherworldly significance. Dwayne Williams, the basketball legend, continued his celebration, completely unaware that his world was about to collide with Marcus's in the most unexpected way possible. Marcus Johnson stared blankly at the small piece of paper with the law firm's contact information, his mind struggling to process the earlier phone conversation. The genetic testing laboratory had been precise and clinical in their explanation, but the implications were overwhelming. For 8 years, he had navigated the harsh streets of the city, each day a brutal struggle for survival, sleeping in shelters when possible and finding temporary work wherever he could. His calloused hands told stories of manual labor, odd jobs, and countless nights of uncertainty. The free health screening at the community center had seemed like just another routine check, an opportunity to get a basic medical examination and potentially receive some minor medical assistance. Nobody could have predicted that a simple DNA swab would unravel a life-changing mystery that had been buried for decades. The genetic markers were undeniable, the scientific evidence irrefutable. Marcus shared a biological father with Dwayne Williams, the multimillionaire basketball superstar whose face adorned billboards and magazine covers across the country. His mind drifted back to his fragmented childhood memories. His mother, a hard-working woman who had struggled to provide for him, rarely spoke about his father. When she did, her words were minimal, tinged with a mixture of pain and reluctance. "Some men aren't meant to be fathers," she would say, her eyes looking distant and hurt. Now, those cryptic statements suddenly carried a weight he had never understood before. The streets had been Marcus's home for so long that the concept of having a biological connection to wealth and fame seemed surreal. He had watched Dwayne Williams on television during rare moments in community center waiting rooms, admiring the athlete's success story of rising from humble beginnings to becoming a global sports icon. Never in his wildest imagination had he considered that their paths might be more closely connected than mere distant admiration. His current life was a stark contrast to the glamorous world of professional sports. Mornings began with finding safe spaces to rest, afternoons spent searching for day labor or collecting recyclable materials to earn a few dollars. Survival was a full-time occupation, leaving little room for contemplating past mysteries or familial connections. Yet now, everything was about to change. The law firm's letter detailed preliminary findings and requested an official meeting. They spoke of potential inheritance, legal rights, and a biological connection that could dramatically alter his existence. Marcus's hands trembled slightly, a mixture of excitement and profound uncertainty coursing through his veins. The life he had known, uncertain, challenging, but familiar, was about to be completely transformed. The law firm's downtown office was a world Marcus had never imagined entering. Polished marble floors, gleaming oak desks, and attorneys dressed in tailored suits created an environment that felt entirely alien to his street-hardened existence. He sat uncomfortably, his worn jacket a stark contrast to the pristine surroundings, feeling like an intruder in a realm reserved for the privileged. The lead attorney, a distinguished woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and impeccable makeup, studied him with a mixture of professional curiosity and barely concealed compassion. "Mr. Johnson," she began, spreading out several documents across the expansive conference table, "our genetic investigation has uncovered compelling evidence of your biological connection to Dwayne Williams. The DNA test results are conclusive. You share the same father, a man who seemingly maintained two separate lives, with distinct families unaware of each other's existence." Her words hung in the air, heavy with implications that would fundamentally reshape Marcus's understanding of his own history. The documents revealed a complex narrative of familial deception. Their father, Robert Thompson, had been a successful regional sales executive who had maintained parallel relationships in different cities. Marcus's mother had been a waitress in a small Midwestern town, while Dwayne's mother was a teacher in a suburban community hundreds of miles away. Neither woman had known about the other, creating a web of secrecy that had remained unbroken for decades. Marcus absorbed the information with a mixture of shock and emotional numbness. Years of street survival had taught him to compartmentalize feelings, to process information strategically rather than emotionally. Yet beneath his controlled exterior, fundamental questions began to emerge. Why had his father never acknowledged him? What circumstances had led to such profound familial fragmentation? The wealth and success represented by Dwayne's life stood in sharp contradiction to Marcus's own experiences of marginalization and struggle. The attorney explained the potential legal implications. As a biological son, Marcus might have claims to a portion of the family's assets, inheritance rights, and potential financial support. The basketball star's substantial fortune, estimated at over $150 million, could potentially be subject to legal redistribution. However, such claims would require extensive legal proceedings, DNA verification, and potentially contentious negotiations with Dwayne Williams and his existing family members. Marcus's mind wandered to the stark differences between his life and that of his newly discovered half-brother. While Dwayne had enjoyed privileged education, professional sports success, and multiple endorsement deals, Marcus had fought daily for basic survival. He had known hunger, uncertainty, and the harsh realities of homelessness. The potential financial implications were almost secondary to the profound emotional revelation of discovering a biological connection to a world so fundamentally different from his own. The attorney continued explaining the next steps: formal DNA confirmation, potential legal notifications to Dwayne Williams, and the complex process of establishing familial recognition. Marcus listened, his weathered hands folded carefully in his lap, trying to maintain composure while internally processing a life-altering revelation that seemed more like a surreal dream than reality. As the meeting concluded, Marcus stepped out into the bustling city street, the weight of newfound information pressing against his consciousness. The world looked different now, not just physically, but in its fundamental possibility. Something profound had shifted, and the trajectory of his life was about to change in ways he could not yet comprehend. The world of professional basketball pulsed with energy and precision, a universe far removed from Marcus Johnson's daily existence. Dwayne Williams had become more than just an athlete. He was a cultural icon, a symbol of athletic excellence and philanthropic success. His journey from a modest neighborhood in Chicago to international basketball stardom was already the stuff of legendary narratives, carefully crafted and meticulously maintained by professional publicists and image management teams. At 38 years old, Dwayne had achieved what most athletes could only dream about: multiple championship titles, lucrative endorsement deals with global brands, and a personal foundation that supported urban youth programs had constructed an image of a man who had transcended his humble origins. His charitable work focused on providing educational opportunities and sports training for underprivileged children, creating a public persona of compassion and social responsibility that had earned him widespread respect and admiration. Behind the carefully curated public image, however, lurked a complex personal history that Dwayne had worked tirelessly to keep concealed. The revelation of an unknown half-brother threatened to unravel the carefully constructed narrative of his life. His parents, now retired and living in a luxurious Florida community, had maintained strict silence about the complexities of their past, protecting a family mythology that did not include acknowledgement of multiple relationships or additional children. Dwayne's inner circle, his legal team, personal manager, and closest associates represented a sophisticated network designed to manage his public image and personal affairs with surgical precision. When the initial genetic test results arrived, suggesting the existence of Marcus Johnson, they were intercepted and analyzed with the same strategic approach used to manage potential athletic or commercial risks. The initial strategy was containment. Legal teams began investigating the potential implications, searching for ways to mitigate any potential public exposure or financial risk. Background checks on Marcus were conducted discreetly, personal histories examined, and potential legal strategies formulated. The possibility of a previously unknown sibling represented both a potential personal threat and a complex public relations challenge. Professional athletes like Dwayne understood the power of narrative control. Every public statement, every carefully managed interview was designed to reinforce a specific image of success, resilience, and community commitment. The potential exposure of a long-hidden family secret could destabilize years of carefully constructed public perception. More than the potential financial implications, Dwayne feared the potential erosion of the inspirational story he had built, a narrative of individual triumph over systemic challenges. Within the luxurious confines of his Beverly Hills mansion, surrounded by championship trophies and carefully curated memorabilia documenting his sporting achievements, Dwayne Williams faced a moment of profound personal reckoning. The genetic evidence was undeniable, the connection to Marcus Johnson a reality that could no longer be ignored or strategically managed away. The collision between Marcus's world of survival and Dwayne's universe of privilege was imminent, a narrative arc that promised to challenge everything both men understood about family, identity, and the complex inheritance of personal history. The legal machinery began turning with a precision that felt both impersonal and relentless. Marcus found himself thrust into a world of complex documentation, genetic verification, and procedural formalities that seemed entirely removed from his lived experience of survival. Each document, each meeting, each official interaction peeled back layers of his previously invisible existence, exposing a hidden narrative that had been waiting decades to emerge. Forensic genealogists meticulously traced the connections between Robert Thompson's two separate family lines. Birth certificates, employment records, and fragmentary medical documents created a mosaic of a man who had masterfully maintained two distinct lives. Robert Thompson had been a traveling sales executive, a profession that provided convenient cover for his duplicitous personal arrangements. He had systematically avoided creating permanent connections that might expose his double life, moving between cities with calculated precision. Marcus's mother, Eleanor Johnson, had been a waitress in a small Midwestern town, struggling to raise her son with limited resources. She had spoken rarely about Marcus's father, protecting her son from the painful complexities of his origins. Now, decades later, her silent protection was being systematically dismantled by legal processes beyond her control. Marcus remembered her worn hands, her exhausted smile, the countless sacrifices she had made to provide him with whatever stability she could manage. Dwayne Williams's legal team approached the situation with a combination of strategic caution and calculated management. They understood that public perception could be as critical as legal outcomes. Background investigations into Marcus revealed a life marked by economic hardship and resilience, a narrative that could potentially be spun into a compelling human interest story if managed correctly. The genetic testing laboratory that had initially discovered the connection became a critical nexus in this unfolding drama. Their scientific methodology had uncovered a truth that had remained hidden for decades, transforming a routine DNA analysis into a life-altering revelation. The laboratory's lead geneticist, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, became a key witness, her professional testimony providing the scientific validation of the familial connection. Psychological evaluations became part of the complex process. Both Marcus and Dwayne were required to undergo extensive interviews, exploring their emotional responses to this unexpected familial connection. For Marcus, these sessions represented an unprecedented opportunity to understand his own origins. For Dwayne, they were a calculated risk, a potential threat to the carefully constructed narrative of his personal history. The media began catching wind of the developing story. Investigative journalists started piecing together fragments of information, sensing a potentially explosive narrative of hidden family secrets and unexpected inheritance. Social media speculation ran rampant, with various commentators offering competing narratives about the possible implications of this genetic revelation. Marcus found himself at the center of a storm he had never anticipated. The man who had spent years surviving on society's margins was suddenly being considered as a potential heir to a multi-million-dollar sports fortune. His life of immediate survival was being rapidly transformed into a complex legal and personal negotiation that challenged everything he had previously understood about his identity and potential future. The confrontation, when it finally occurred, was anything but dramatic. A carefully orchestrated meeting in a neutral legal conference room replaced the cinematic reunion one might expect. Dwayne Williams arrived precisely at 2 p.m., accompanied by his personal attorney and a public relations consultant. Marcus sat waiting, wearing a recently purchased suit that still felt uncomfortable against his skin, a stark contrast to the years of worn clothing that had been his previous uniform of survival. Their physical resemblance was undeniable. The same strong jawline, the distinctive curve of their eyebrows, the deep-set eyes that spoke of a shared genetic heritage became immediately apparent. Dwayne's professionally maintained physique stood in sharp contrast to Marcus's leaner, more weathered frame, a physical manifestation of their divergent life experiences. The initial moments were painfully awkward. Legal protocols dictated the conversation, transforming a potentially emotional family reunion into a carefully managed professional interaction. Dwayne's attorney presented a series of documents outlining potential financial arrangements and legal acknowledgements. Marcus listened with a detachment born of years of street survival, his ability to process intense emotions tempered by a lifetime of unexpected challenges. "I want to understand," Marcus finally spoke, his voice steady and controlled. "Not about money, about why." The simple word hung in the air, laden with decades of unspoken questions. Why had their father never acknowledged him? Why had this complete separation been allowed to exist for so many years? Dwayne's carefully composed exterior showed the first signs of emotional vulnerability. The story that emerged was complex and painful. Their father, Robert Thompson, had been a man of calculated decisions, maintaining separate families with a cold precision that defied traditional understanding of familial responsibility. He had provided financial support to both families, but had never created direct connections between them, maintaining a bizarre form of parallel existence. Medical records revealed additional layers of complexity. Robert Thompson had been diagnosed with a genetic heart condition in his late 40s, a condition that potentially impacted both Marcus and Dwayne. This shared medical heritage added another dimension to their unexpected connection, transforming their relationship from a legal abstraction to a tangible biological reality. The Basketball Stars Foundation, which had long championed stories of social mobility and unexpected opportunities, now found itself at the center of a narrative more complex than any they had previously supported. The irony was not lost on Marcus. The very mechanisms of opportunity that Dwayne had championed were now being applied to his own life. Public speculation continued to build. Media outlets began constructing narratives that oscillated between sympathetic human interest stories and more sensationalist exposés. Marcus found himself simultaneously invisible and hypervisible, a man whose entire life was suddenly subject to public scrutiny and interpretation. The possibility of reconciliation remained uncertain. Years of separation, divergent life experiences, and the complex emotional landscape of unexpected familial connection created a terrain that neither Marcus nor Dwayne were fully prepared to navigate. The media storm erupted with a ferocity that transformed Marcus and Dwayne's private struggle into a national narrative of lost family, unexpected connections, and societal inequalities. Major networks picked up the story, each channel presenting a slightly different angle on the extraordinary genetic revelation. Talk shows featured body language experts analyzing their first meeting, while investigative journalists dug deep into the complicated history of Robert Thompson's dual family life. Social media platforms became a battlefield of public opinion. Some users celebrated the potential redemption story, a homeless man suddenly connected to a sports millionaire. Others criticized Dwayne for his initial reluctance to fully acknowledge Marcus, dissecting every public statement with surgical precision. Hashtags trended, online communities debated the nuances of familial responsibility, and the personal became irrevocably political. Marcus found himself thrust into a world completely foreign to his previous existence. Press conferences, media training, and legal consultations replaced his daily struggle for survival. Professional stylists helped him transform his appearance. Wardrobe experts selected clothing that would present him sympathetically to the public. The man who had once worried about finding his next meal was now learning to navigate complex media interactions and public expectations. Dwayne's professional brand faced unprecedented challenges. His carefully constructed public image, the philanthropic athlete who championed social mobility, was now being tested in the most personal way possible. Sports commentators and social critics began questioning the authenticity of his previous charitable work, suggesting that true social responsibility began with acknowledging one's own family connections. Psychological experts brought forward discussions about generational trauma, familial disconnection, and the long-term impacts of paternal abandonment. Marcus's journey became more than just a personal story. It transformed into a broader narrative about systemic inequalities, the hidden stories of marginalized individuals, and the complex nature of family in modern society. The legal negotiations became increasingly complex. Financial settlements were discussed, but both Marcus and Dwayne recognized that the true value of their connection transcended monetary compensation. Medical records revealed shared genetic predispositions, potential health risks that created an unexpected form of biological intimacy. Their father's genetic legacy was both a burden and a bridge, connecting two lives that had previously existed in complete isolation. Marcus's mother, Elena Johnson, became an unexpected focal point of the narrative. Her years of silent struggle, her protection of her son, her resilience in the face of economic challenges, these became powerful counterpoints to the narrative of absent fatherhood. Journalists tracked her down, revealing a woman of extraordinary strength who had raised her son with dignity despite overwhelming odds. The basketball community responded with a mixture of support and skepticism. Some of Dwayne's teammates came forward with their own stories of complicated family histories, creating a broader conversation about the hidden narratives behind public success. Sponsors watched carefully, balancing the potential public relations challenges with the compelling human story that was unfolding. As weeks turned into months, the initial shock began to transform into a more nuanced understanding. Marcus and Dwayne were not just a sensational news story. They were two men attempting to understand a connection that had been deliberately hidden for decades. The transformation of Marcus's life occurred with a complexity that defied simple narrative resolution. His newfound connection to Dwayne opened doors that had been permanently closed during years of street survival. But the emotional and psychological adaptation proved far more challenging than any financial or social transition. Therapeutic sessions became a critical component of his journey, helping him process decades of unacknowledged trauma, abandonment, and sudden, unexpected privilege. Dwayne's foundation became an unexpected vehicle for Marcus's rehabilitation and reintegration. Professional counselors specializing in family reconciliation and trauma support were brought in to help both brothers navigate their complex new relationship. Marcus began educational programs, addressing the educational gaps created by years of economic marginalization. He discovered a natural aptitude for social work, his street-learned survival skills translating into a profound understanding of systemic challenges faced by marginalized communities. Legal settlements established a comprehensive support structure. Beyond immediate financial compensation, the agreement included educational funding, comprehensive health insurance, and professional development opportunities. Marcus approached these resources with a pragmatic mindset developed through years of survival. Each opportunity was carefully evaluated, each resource strategically considered. The biological family's extended network slowly began to acknowledge Marcus's existence. Aunts, cousins, and distant relatives, who had previously been completely unaware of his existence, now found themselves recalibrating family histories and personal narratives. Family gatherings became complex psychological negotiations with unspoken tensions and newfound connections, creating intricate emotional landscapes. Dwayne's professional career faced unexpected challenges. The revelation of his hidden brother became a moment of public reckoning, forcing a more nuanced conversation about family, responsibility, and the complex narratives of success. Sports commentators and social critics analyzed every aspect of his response, challenging the carefully constructed public persona he had maintained for years. Medical investigations revealed additional layers of their shared genetic heritage. The genetic heart condition that had remained dormant in their father's medical history became a point of shared concern and connection. Regular health screenings, genetic counseling, and proactive medical interventions became an unexpected form of familial bonding. Marcus's mother, Elena, remained a critical anchor in this transformative process. Her quiet strength, her years of silent protection, became a powerful counterpoint to the more public narrative of familial revelation. She approached the sudden transformation of her son's life with a mixture of cautious hope and protective instinct, having spent decades shielding him from potential disappointments. Public speaking opportunities emerged, with both Marcus and Dwayne sharing their complex journey. Their narrative became more than a personal story. It transformed into a broader commentary on family, systemic inequalities, and the unexpected ways human connections can emerge. Universities, social justice conferences, and community organizations sought their perspectives on reconciliation and understanding. The media narrative slowly shifted from sensationalism to a more nuanced exploration of their journey. Documentaries, long-form journalistic pieces, and academic studies began to examine the broader social implications of their unexpected connection. Marcus and Dwayne found themselves not just participants in a personal story, but representatives of a more complex understanding of family, identity, and social mobility. 5 years after their initial discovery, Marcus and Dwayne's relationship had evolved into something neither could have predicted, a complex, genuine brotherhood that transcended their initial genetic connection. Their foundation, established jointly, became a powerful mechanism for addressing systemic poverty and family disconnection, transforming their personal story into a broader social movement. Marcus completed his master's degree in social work, specializing in urban community development. His lived experience of homelessness, combined with his newfound educational opportunities, created a unique approach to social intervention. The programs he developed through their foundation focused on comprehensive support for marginalized individuals, not just financial assistance, but holistic support that addressed educational, psychological, and professional barriers. Dwayne's professional basketball career transitioned into full-time philanthropy and social entrepreneurship. The media narrative that had once threatened to destabilize his public image now celebrated his commitment to family reconciliation and social justice. Speaking engagements, documentary productions, and academic collaborations transformed their personal journey into a broader conversation about systemic inequalities and unexpected human connections. Their biological father, Robert Thompson, had passed away 2 years after their initial connection, leaving behind a complex legacy of unresolved familial relationships. The legal and emotional resolution of his estate became a pivotal moment of collective healing for Marcus, Dwayne, and their extended families. Medical records and personal documents revealed a man who had lived a life of calculated emotional distance, whose legacy was now being rewritten through his son's actions. Elena Johnson, Marcus's mother, became an unexpected public figure. Her years of quiet strength, her unwavering support during Marcus's most challenging times, transformed her into a symbol of resilient motherhood. Speaking at women's empowerment conferences, she shared her story of raising a child with limited resources, her narrative challenging traditional definitions of success and family. The genetic testing company that had initially discovered their connection became a partner in their foundation's work. They developed programs exploring genetic heritage, family reconnection, and the psychological implications of unexpected familial discoveries. What had begun as a clinical genetic test had transformed into a broader movement of human understanding. Media documentaries and academic research continued to explore their extraordinary journey. Universities developed case studies examining their unique family reconciliation, using their story as a framework for understanding complex social dynamics. The narrative moved beyond sensationalism, becoming a nuanced exploration of family, identity, and social mobility. Their foundation's work expanded internationally, creating support networks for individuals experiencing familial disconnection. Scholarship programs, professional development initiatives, and psychological support services became their primary focus. Marcus and Dwayne emerged as unexpected social innovators, their personal transformation becoming a broader mechanism for societal change. Public speaking engagements allowed them to share their complex journey, challenging traditional narratives about family, success, and social mobility. Their story became a powerful testament to the unexpected ways human connections can emerge, transcending economic, social, and emotional barriers. The call to action emerged not as a traditional marketing pitch, but as a deeply personal invitation to human connection. Marcus stood on a stage, the soft lighting casting shadows that highlighted the journey etched into his weathered face. Beside him, Dwayne represented a different kind of testimony, the polished athlete transformed into a vulnerable storyteller. "Our story isn't just about two brothers," Marcus began, his voice carrying the weight of 8 years spent surviving on the streets. "It's about the invisible connections that exist in every family, every community. How many stories remain untold? How many connections wait to be discovered?" Dwayne stepped forward, breaking the traditional boundaries of his carefully managed public persona. DNA is more than just a scientific marker, it's a map of human possibility. Our fathers' choices created decades of separation, but they couldn't destroy the fundamental connection that always existed. Their foundation had become more than a charitable organization. It was a living testament to unexpected reconciliation. They had developed comprehensive genetic connection support programs, providing resources for individuals seeking to understand their family histories. Counseling services, genetic testing support, and legal guidance became tools of emotional reconstruction. The media platform hosting their story created an interactive experience. Viewers could submit their own stories of familial discovery, creating a growing archive of human connection. Each narrative became a thread in a larger tapestry of understanding, proving that family transcends traditional definitions. "We're not asking you to just watch," Marcus said, his eyes connecting directly with the audience. "We're inviting you to explore your own story. Every family has hidden chapters. Every person carries unwritten histories." Dwayne's voice joined his, creating a powerful duet of human experience. "Our journey proves that it's never too late to rewrite your story. Connection is not about perfection. It's about understanding, compassion, and the courage to reach out." The call to action was subtle yet profound. No hard sell, no manipulative tactics, just a genuine invitation to human vulnerability. Share your story. Explore your connections. Understand that family is not just about blood, but about the bridges we choose to build. Social media platforms lit up. The hashtag #UnexpectedConnections began trending globally. People from different continents, different economic backgrounds, started sharing their own stories of familial discovery, genetic surprises, and unexpected reconciliations. What began as one family's extraordinary journey became a global conversation about human connection, identity, and the complex landscapes of belonging.